Welcome, everybody, to the very first Progress Podcast. I'm Martin Longman, and you may know me as Boo Man from the liberal blogosphere. Way back in 2005, I founded Boo Man Tribune, and I've been blogging almost every single day for 18 years since. Since that time, I also worked for the Washington Monthly, the political animal blog they have there that Kevin Drum worked there. Steve Bannon, when I was there, I was working with Ed Kilgore and Nancy Latorno, who are both excellent bloggers. I did a little work for Howard Dean's Democracy for America. I've worked for Acorn as a community organizer, and that's my background. And I've been doing this for 18 years. Now I'm looking to do a new challenge with podcasting, and I got a great partner in Brendan Skwire. Hello, Brendan. How you doing?
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
Now, I've known Brendan as long as I've been blogging, so also 18 years, and it's been a long journey. Back then, Brendan was, I think you were a grant writer. Is that right?
That is true. I was a grant writer in the nonprofit field.
Yeah. And I met you because I went down to check out the Drinking Liberally chapter, and I discovered that you were the head organizer there. That's how we got to know each other.
It was basically an anti-Iraq war salon for Philly writers, and people may not know this, but back then in the early 2000s, Philly was ground zero for the liberal blogosphere. We had folks like Duncan Black, or otherwise known as Atrios from Eschaton there. Chris Bowers, who is writing for mydd.com, which Daily Kos refers to as their blog father. You had folks like Susie Madrak, who's still going over at crooksandliars.com. Chris Baldwin, great friend of ours and one of my musicians, was writing at Row House Logic. And of course, we had the legendary and forever anonymous Up Your Nose.
Yes, Up Your Nose is the best. And you mentioned that you're a musician.
I am.
That's right. And, I spent a lot of time in Nashville. I lived down there for a little while.
I did. I moved down to Nashville back in 2016. I was down there for about 4 years, doing my best to make it in music. I was also writing for Raw Story back then. That was my day job for quite some time.
Oh, that's right.
But up here in Philadelphia, I had a blog called Brendan Calling. I also did a few pieces for the Philadelphia Weekly back then. What I was best known for, and why I got hired at the Philly Weekly to begin with, was because I was legendary for making phone calls to right-wing and Republican politicians and pranking their staffs. Got to the point where Arlen Specter and Rick Santorum simply would not answer the phone if they saw my number. I had to start dialing star 67 or whatever so they couldn't see it.
Oh, yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, there's some classic stuff. And then you would write it up, so we could. Yeah.
And then I would write it up, and it was really embarrassing for a lot of people. And that's probably why I don't have a career in politics today.
It was also really entertaining, So that was your shtick back then, and the thing is, right now, I know that you were just down in Nashville, and while you were down there, there was a big controversy about this Jason Aldean character. So I wanted you to talk about that a little bit, because I know you've done some work with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I was on his crew a couple of times. But Nashville was great as usual. It's a little dot of blue in Tennessee, like most of Tennessee's cities, Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga. Those are all little dots of blue. After I left Nashville, I moved up to Vermont, and I had a choice to either move back to Nashville or Philadelphia. And if it weren't for the fact that Tennessee was run by performatively cruel right-wing ogres, I would move back there in a heartbeat. The music scene is like nowhere else. The people who live there are just wonderful, nice people. But as you said, the Jason Aldean controversy came out. For those of you who are lucky enough not to know who Jason Aldean is, he's a pop country singer. He's had a few hits, and his latest one, which caused a lot of controversy, is his new song, Try That in a Small Town.
Yeah, Try It in a Small Town, as if the guy's from a small town. He's from Macon, Georgia.
Yeah, which is the fourth biggest city in the state of Georgia. It's bigger than Savannah. And then he moved to Nashville.
Right. Not a small town at all.
Nashville is not a small town at all.
No.
The population of Nashville is actually bigger than the population of the entire state of Vermont. And there's constant churn. There's so many people there from LA. There's so many people there from New York. There's people there, musicians from all over the world. So this small town stuff is just bullshit.
Bigger than Vermont. That's crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, the song that he performed, Try That in a Small Town, it's been ripped for its vigilante justice theme. It's got all these lyrics about, you want to go spit in a cop's face and stomp on the flag. Try that in our small town. You'll see if you get out of here. It's just idiotic.
Right.
But even worse than that is that the song itself actually went under the radar for a little bit, but then he released the video.
Right.
And the video was shot at the site of a 1927 lynching. The video basically shows a lot of people protesting and, they look all bad and stuff. And then there's Jason Aldean playing in front of this courthouse with a giant American flag hanging behind him.
Right.
So I'm going to quote the New York Times on Henry Choate, who was 18 years old. Henry Choate, I'm quoting, had traveled from his home in Coffee County, Tennessee, where he worked on road construction, to visit his grandfather in nearby Maury County on November 11th, 1927. This was also Veterans Day. While he was there, he was accused, falsely, historians now believe, of raping a 16-year-old white girl. But there was a mob who tracked him down with dogs, dragged him from the prison, and murdered him. They hung him actually in front of the courthouse that Jason Aldean is singing in front of. So a lot.
And, you think about that is normally the courthouse is where you wind up, because you're guilty of lynching somebody, but they just feel they're like they have impunity. So they just show up at the courthouse and do it like, hey, look at us. You're not going to do anything, you know? Yeah. It's just shoving it in everybody's face.
It's shoving it in everybody's face. And so Jason Aldean, by singing in front of that courthouse, basically shoved it in everybody's face again. Guess what? There was a response and people got mad, and CMT, Country Music Television, they actually dropped the song and pulled the video, which for real, that is actual real progress. I'm a country music fan. I'm a country musician. But there are a lot of people that are not really on board with a lot of stuff that goes on in country music. Jason Isbell is a constant critic of the suits of country music. I realize that Nashville and country in general is trying to reach out to more black performers. You got people like Yola, who's considered country by a lot of folks. You got, bands like the Carolina Chocolate Drops. You have folks like Jelly Roll who have transitioned from hip hop to playing country. And that's great. I'm not a big fan of Darius Rucker, but you got Darius Rucker. But for years, he's been like the token black guy on the Grand Ole Opry. So the fact that CMT, and CMT, country music, these are the people that rejected Lil Nas X's Old Town Road as being too urban, while being happy to play Jason Aldean's idiotic song, Dirt Road Anthem, which unfortunately features Jason Aldean trying to rap, and that's nothing you need to hear.
No one wants to hear that.
No one needs to hear that. But the fact that they dropped the song is actual real progress. They pulled his video. CMT is taking a ton of shit for it. And man, Jason Aldean is mad.
Oh, he's mad.
So mad. He's getting all this and that, blippity blappity bloopity blappity blue. You can't say it. It's free speech. Well, come on, man. I mean, first of all, that's a complete misunderstanding of free speech and the First Amendment. But by the way, is this where I mentioned that Jason and his trophy wife Brittany are all in with Donald Trump? Because they are.
Oh, yeah. She's like MAGA Barbie.
Oh, she's total MAGA Barbie. And when I see pictures of her and when I look into her eyes, they're like these googly eyes where you're looking into the abyss. It's crazy. But like back in 2021, the Washington Post had a story about how they were taking pictures of their kids wearing hiding from Biden shirts. This was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And Britney has had stuff thrown off of Instagram for saying all sorts of stuff about how January 6th didn't happen.
Right.
So she seems about as nice as her husband, who, by the way, when he was married, when he met her and was basically cheating on his first wife with old Britney over there.
You know what that is? That's small town values right there.
Those are small town family values right there.
That's right. That's small town. Try that in a small town.
Well, Donald Trump tried something in a small town with Britney, didn't he?
Yeah. So they go down to visit Mar-a-Lago. Jason Aldean and his wife, because they're big fans, so they go down there and they're sitting out there on the patio or whatever. And, Trump comes over. He noticed, here's this, good looking blonde, buxom woman. Yeah. Let me peer down her dress. Right. And then they catch it on film. They got him like kissing her on the head while he's looking down her shirt.
It's not so much a shirt as it's a dress with this incredibly low neckline. Her boobs are practically spilling out.
Yeah. And he noticed,
Jason totally noticed. He's got this look on his face.
Oh man.
It's indescribable because he's watching his hero ogle his wife's tits.
I know. There's like people on Twitter like, Trump got a good long look at your wife's chest when he kissed her, just trolling the shit out of him. It's like the New York Post is like basically just advertising how many people are calling him a cuck online.
It doesn't make him a cuck. I think it might.
This guy, and I just want a little digression here, which is
because I got one after you.
Yeah. Which is, okay. So we're talking about this video and I don't know if we're clear enough about it, but it has this racial component, right? Which is, it's showing video, or originally I think they took it down. Like they did. They took it down, but originally it had all this like Black Lives Matters and George Floyd protest, stuff. And that was like portrayed negatively. Like, this is the scary part. Yeah. This is the bad part that you don't do in a small town. And, that's got a racial component. And then when you put that in your video and you're talking about how the good old boys and the lyrics in the song, the good old boys are going to take care of these rabble rousers. It's pretty clear you're talking about black people, or it certainly comes off that way, right?
Yep. It sure does.
So I just want to point out, like, this guy is butthurt because people actually talked back. They clapped back at him. Like, look, we noticed what your video is about. And he's like, that's not what it's about. So yeah, he's just full of shit. And I just wanted to just, get that out there before, we move on to the next, thing about him, because the guy's a freaking laughing stock as far as
he
I'm
is.
concerned.
There's another thing another digression that I would like to make. The other thing that is infuriating, at least to me, about this song, it's been accused and I think accurately of glorifying violence and especially gun violence. And Aldean has actually said, no, it's not glorifying gun violence. Well, first of all, it is. But second of all, Jason Aldean, of all people, should know better. He should know better because he was the fella that was down, that he was playing a concert and there was a mass shooting at that concert.
At the show?
At the show itself.
Whoa.
At the show itself. You can find where is it? Good Lord. Yeah, Jason Aldean pins, here it is, Grammy, October 1st. I'm going to read it to you. Okay. I won't read the whole article.
No.
This is from October 2017. Jason Aldean pens heartfelt letters following Las Vegas shooting. Country music star who was performing during the deadly mass shooting in Las Vegas on October 1st speaks out. So if anyone knows better about glorifying gun violence, it's Jason Aldean.
We're talking about that huge shooting in Las Vegas a few years ago?
Yeah, that's the one. The guy that was shooting from the window where everybody was running from the festival grounds.
That was one of the biggest mass shootings in the country's history, man.
I'm not going to look around for the quote right now because we're busy podcasting. I should have done my homework. But, his bass player at the time actually said that having experienced that, it had completely changed him around when it came to gun control and registration and all that stuff. And Aldean apparently did not learn his lesson.
No, because the song's like saying, come try and grab our guns, motherfucker. Like, see what happens.
Exactly. By the way, it's also worth noting that Jason Aldean didn't even write that song.
Of course not.
It's hilarious. A lot of people, well, I'm probably telling people things they already know, but a lot of country musicians with all the authenticity and this and that, a lot of those guys don't, and a lot of those people do not write their own songs. Sometimes I've seen some songs that were submental that were written by like 15 people. So, Jason Aldean, by the way, has been getting ripped all over the place by his peers and his betters online. Sheryl Crow posted something saying that I'm from a small town and even people in small towns are sick of violence. And, Jason Isbell, who's one of the best fucking songwriters out there today, completely shredded Aldean with posts. He was on Twitter saying, I dare Aldean to write his next single himself. That's what we do in my small town.
Right. Yeah.
The next day he went after him on July 20th saying, I'm challenging you to write a song yourself all alone. You're a recording artist. Make some art. I want to hear it.
Yeah, he's getting trolled too. Like first it was, the New York Post. Now it's all his other country stars just fed up with his stupid act. And he's no good either. Like his music doesn't even sound like country to me.
Oh, it doesn't sound like country at all. It's crap. It's basically rock and roll light. It's rock and roll light.
Yeah.
With a dash of hip hop for white people that are scared of black people. Basically what it boils down to. But when you say no good, I've had interactions, vague interactions with Aldean because after I stopped working for Raw Story, I became a stagehand again. Working in audio, video, stage carpentry. That's a lot of my background as well as a performer. And I worked mostly conventions, but I did do 2 gigs for Jason Aldean.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't the worst gig I've ever, worked. But I will say that he treated the crew like we didn't even exist. It was just a total, you're beneath me kind of attitude.
As people from small towns do.
Exactly. Yeah. As people from small towns with their small town family values that are friendly until you do the wrong thing and then they decide they have to run you out of town and shoot you. Yes, small town values. Yeah. But the thing is, he didn't have to be that way. I mean, the dude is rich. He doesn't have to load any of his equipment. He gets all the fancy clothes. He's got his trophy wife over there that he didn't have to be that way. He could have been, I worked a show for America. Remember those guys? Horse with no name. Yeah. Those guys were nice. They were the nicest people.
I believe it.
When you're a stagehand, you have a scheduled break, like every few hours or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The America guys were like, hey, you guys hungry? We got plenty of food. We were like, we're not allowed to eat till break. They were like, we already talked to your manager. Just come eat, manja. They were so nice. Meanwhile, Aldean, we did this one show where he was playing the second floor of a honky tonk down on Broadway. And among the other things we had to do, we had to load in a half dozen identical black acoustic guitars up 2 flights of freaking stairs for his ass. And except for one, and they're all in road cases, so they're heavy. And except for one of those acoustic guitars, they were all there for show, like in a line behind him.
So identical guitars. Like
identical.
Not like I need this guitar for this song and this guitar for that song, but like,
nope.
I just want to have a stage full of identical guitars.
They were identical black Gibson acoustic guitars, the ones with the cutaway.
You can't break that many strings. That just doesn't make any sense.
Especially when you play as little as Jason Aldean does. And the thing is, I mean, the guy never even said thanks. He didn't even say a word of thanks. Not that we're asking. It's our job. We're getting paid. But for crying out loud, just be a decent human being to the people who made your stupid show possible.
Yeah, it's a small town boy from Macon's forgotten where he came from. Now he's too big for the little folks.
He's too big for the little folks. Exactly. In fact, the only part of him that's actually big is his shoulders. Cause the rest of him, he kind of looks like a lollipop with shoulders. Cause he's got the skinny little body and a tiny, tiny little head. It looks like kind of a thumb. with his giant hat on top. I mean, I don't want to body shame anybody, but for real, the guy looks like a cartoon character. I don't know why he thinks he's such hot shit.
I'll tell you what's a shame. It's a shame that he's so butthurt. That's what's a shame.
It is. It's a shame that he's butthurt for getting called out. It's a shame that he had to release a song that's stupid to begin with. It's a shame that he had to put out such a divisive and nasty video. It's a shame all around.
And you know what else is a shame?
What's a shame?
That how well this song is doing.
Yeah, well, all the MAGA people are all,
all the controversies, it's sending it right to the top.
Right. We're talking about it, right? We're still talking about it.
And it's getting downloaded like crazy.
I'm sure. But anyway, that is my rant on that guy. If you want to hear country music, real country music, don't buy his albums. He and his wife are a couple of right-wing fruitcakes, and apparently two right-wing fruitcake for the country music establishment who, again, are the people who keep Morgan fucking Wallen on the air, and he's like an unashamed racist.
Yeah, and plus, he's actually from a small town, Sneedville, Tennessee, population 1,282.
Oh, I know from Sneedville. That's where Jimmy Martin, the king of bluegrass, grew up.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're looking for good country music, you want to hear some good country music, folks, check out someone like Pat Reedy. Check out Joshua Headley. Check out the Royal Hounds, the amazing band that does our soundtrack here at the Progress Podcast. Check out Rebecca Jed from Arkansas. Check out Willie Carlisle or Mercy Bell. Both of them are LGBTQ country performers, and they're just wonderful, doing good music, and they're not assholes, and they're doing much better real country music, and those folks deserve your dime.
Yeah, and let me say, folks, when it comes to musical recommendations, I always listen to Brennan. I never go wrong. So, yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
Well, thank you very much. So now that I've gotten all my Jason Aldean crap off my chest, what's going on in your world today, Marty? Because I know there's something that's always got you pissed off.
Well, there's one thing that's always got me pissed off, and that's Donald Trump.
No, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just pissed off that we're in the situation that we're in where this guy is running for president, and I don't think that he should be allowed to run for president. I think if this country had any self-respect, he wouldn't be able to run for president. And
amen to that, dude.
Yeah. And, you got to start by looking at what happened down in Brazil, right?
All right.
Okay. So if people remember during the Trump presidency, there was a little mini Trump down in Brazil, Bolsonaro, President Bolsonaro. And he modeled himself after Trump, had a lot of the same characteristics. He used the same themes. He had the same enemies. And he just like Trump, he lost his bid for re-election. Recently, the court down in Brazil ruled that he's not allowed to run in the next presidential election in Brazil. In fact, he's not allowed to run in the next two presidential elections.
Really?
Yeah. Well, do you know why, Brendan? Do you know why the court said he can't run for 8 years?
I know a little bit about this.
Yeah.
My understanding is he had 3 or 4 diplomats in, foreign ambassadors. They were all visiting Brazil.
Right.
And he decided to take that time to shit talk the integrity of Brazilian elections, basically saying they were rigged, they were flawed, et cetera, et cetera. You can't trust them. The Donald Trump line, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So these diplomats come in to Brazil on like official, business, and Bolsonaro uses the occasion to say, essentially, our elections here in Brazil are bad. We have bad voting machines. We have this mail-in voting that's got fraud. You can't rely on our system. And number one, there was no evidence for that, just like here, right? This was bullshit that he was telling people in anticipation of the fact that he might lose, and then he might want to not leave.
Yeah, just like Trump. But their court said, nah, bruh. Nah, yeah. You can't do that, buddy. You can't do that.
Yeah, well, they have the self-respect, right, to say that is so beyond the pale that you're done. You're done. That's it.
Out of the pool.
No second chances. You're fucked. Like, you did that, fuck you, right? We can't do that in this country, right?
Right.
We have this guy running for re-election. He did so much more than that. I mean, think about it. Bolsonaro, first of all, just on a personal level, before we even get to the election part of it, right? I mean, Bolsonaro is a shitbag, but he hasn't been convicted of running false charities, taking money that's been donated for cancer victims and using it for yourself. He hasn't set up a false university and had to pay $25 million in damages to victims that fell for your stupid fake university. He hasn't been held liable for raping anybody in a court. He hasn't had his corporation convicted of fraud.
He didn't steal classified information.
Oh yeah, no. Maybe he did, but no one's accusing him of it. And so,
don't forget the porn stars.
Yeah, right. You got the whole thing where he's cheating on his wife while she's nursing their baby, and then paying off the porn star, and then lying about it, creating campaign finance violations and business records violations. I mean, this guy has done a lot, and yet Bolsonaro gets, knocked right out of any potential to be the next president of Brazil just because of what? Because he shit talked their elections.
Yep. No false electors, no stealing from charities, just shit talking.
And
shit talking.
I envy Brazil. I envy them. Like they solved their problem.
Well, I would say temporarily. The man's not in jail. He can run again, and he can run again in 2 elections.
Yeah, I know, but I got to say, all politicians shade the truth a little bit, to their advantage. Bolsonaro never did anything like Trump did down in Georgia, where he calls up the Secretary of State down there, Brad Raffensperger, and he says, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes. That's one more than we have because we won the state. He didn't win the state. And that alone, that effort to steal the electors, to corrupt the Secretary of State of Georgia into stealing the election, that alone is enough that we should be able to say, you're not allowed to run again. I don't think he should have to be convicted in court of that. We all heard it. Bolsonaro wasn't convicted in a court of what he said to the diplomats, but they knew about it, and that was enough. Yeah. So now we have this complete nightmare that's coming up. And to tell how bad it's going to be, all you got to do is look at the twice impeached, twice arrested, disgraced ex-president's legal schedule. It's just chock full. And let's take a look at it, Brendan.
Yeah, let's take a look at that political calendar. So I'm looking, and let's see, January 15th is the day of the Republican Iowa caucuses. So the Republican Iowa caucuses start on January 15th, but also that's the day that Trump's second defamation trial starts in the E. Jean Carroll rape lawsuit.
Okay.
So by the time his trial gets started, it might actually be too late for the GOP to dump him for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. But think about the optics of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're all going to some cold Iowa night. We're all going out, doing our communal thing, gonna caucus together in these gymnasiums in Iowa. And meanwhile, what's the context? The president's getting called into court again for fucking raping somebody.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do? They're going to say, we want Trump.
Yep. That's what they're going to do. They're going to say, we want the rapist. We want the rapist. But then, okay, before we even get to Iowa, I want to back up real quick. He's going to be in court in October of this year, 2023, to answer for the Trump organization's dishonest business practices.
Yeah.
And that's the one being bought by New York AG Letitia James. And if she wins, and I think she's going to ban Trump from doing business in New York. Banned from doing business in New York, home of Trump Tower. That's insane. That's
some context, right?
So we got October 25th. We got October this year coming up, where he's probably going to lose. He's probably going to be banned from doing business in what used to be his home state. On January 15th, Trump is going to basically spend all day in court with a rape defamation case, which is going to be all over the news. And then everybody's supposed to go vote on the same night in the Republican caucuses. So now we've got 2.
Yeah.
But then right after Super Tuesday on March 25th, right after Super Tuesday, New York County DA Alvin Bragg is bringing a criminal trial on false business records in the Stormy Daniels affair.
Yeah. criminal trial. So this is
Criminal.
where he could become a felon, because the other case, one's against his business and the other one's a civil case. This one is where he become a felon. And I'd like to point out that it's scheduled right after Super Tuesday. So that means that, you know, he could effectively, if not mathematically, like have the nomination wrapped up before he goes on trial for a felony. So this is just, we're starting to get a feel here for how screwed up this is going to be because he's allowed to run it all.
Oh, he shouldn't. I don't even know when he's going to have time to campaign. He's going to be he's going to be going back and forth from the campaign to the courthouse, the campaign to the courthouse. And we know, I mean, the man never talks about policy anyway, but all he's going to be talking about that whole time is going to be how this is so unfair and the government is weaponized against him and this is so unfair and poor me.
The deep state. Yeah.
So for the percentage of the population that still backs him, they're not going to care. They're going to be like, yay, hooray, whoopee. But for Democrats and the independents that walked away from him back in 2020, and he did lose a bunch of those people, it's just going to be a reminder, a constant reminder that the man is a crook and probably insane.
It's a national disgrace. And to be honest, we haven't even filled in this calendar. You know?
We haven't filled in the calendar yet.
Yeah.
Because there's another one coming up, isn't there?
We haven't even gotten to anything to do with Jack Smith, right?
Jack Smith's 2 special investigations into the classified documents and the coup on January 6th, which Fani Willis is also investigating down in Georgia.
That's right. So first, before we even get to that, right, then you got the documents case. That's got the Eileen Cannon pro-Trump judge down there in Florida.
Yep.
And she just scheduled that to start the first 2 weeks, or 2 weeks, a 2-week window starting on May 20th.
Yep.
Right. So now what we already have, what did you say? You had one in October?
We got October 2023. We got January 2024. We have March 2024.
Now you got May.
We got May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you got the January 6th stuff. So he just got a target letter from Jack Smith, the special counsel investigating both the documents case and January 6th case. He got a target letter, which means almost definitely that he's going to get arrested. And it's just, you know, is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be 3 weeks? But it's going to be soon. And we already know that Fani Willis, the Fulton County prosecutor down there, has blocked out a period of time in the first half of August.
Yes.
Yeah, to have him arrested, to have Trump arrested, and probably, I don't know, indications maybe up to a dozen of his scumbag cronies and co-conspirators. So you have what looks like over the next month 2 major arrests of Trump, and then that's a spectacle. But then they have to figure out when are they going to have those trials, and so they got to fit him in somewhere. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to push around the calendar? But he's going to be pretty much on trial from whenever the first one starts, which is right now in kind of late October, but who knows if something could bump up in front of that. Probably not,
well,
but
no, actually it starts in, if Fani Willis is bringing charges and is expected to indict Trump in August, I'm assuming you mean August 2023?
No, I mean August 23 for when Fani Willis will indict him. I mean in a couple weeks, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what I mean is, he'll get arrested there, but when will the trial start?
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So he's already been arrested twice, right? And those trials are scheduled, but they're in the future. One's in May and one's in March, I believe. So now they're going to have to schedule what I consider the big kahuna, which is the January 6th. The guy tried to carry out a coup. He tried to remain in power after he had lost an election. And there was violence. There was loss of life. There was mass destruction of federal property. And as the Brazilians said, he trashed our system. He shit talked and lied about our democracy. And that in and of itself is unforgivable.
Yep.
So all of that. And he's going to be pretty much on trial for a variety of things from at least October all the way up into May 20th, May 27th, somewhere in there. It's going to start. Who knows when it's going to finish?
Yeah. Yep.
And the Milwaukee Republican National Convention is scheduled for mid-July, right? And that's their last chance to choose someone else to be their nominee is at the convention.
Why is this guy even allowed to offer himself as a candidate?
That's what I want to know. And, the Republicans could have banned Trump from public office for life by convicting him at either of the two Senate impeachment trials. And they didn't do it because they have no balls.
They have no balls. I think so. I saw someone writing about that just the other day. They didn't have the balls to do it.
No.
They could have spared themselves and our entire country all the bullshit we're going to be facing in the next few months. We could have been spared all of this if they had even one ball among them.
That's the comparison that's why I make the comparison to Brazil. Record there, snap the fingers and solve the problem. No, this guy, this terrible ex-president who trashed our system and who lied, this guy can't run anymore. But over here, no, we can't. Instead, we got the situation where we don't even know how many trials this guy is going to be on. We don't know when the trials are going to happen. It's an international disgrace, and it didn't have to be this way. And I just have to say, I start out talking about how the United States doesn't have self-respect that we let this happen. But maybe the fact that the system is going after this guy so hard and trying to get accountability from this guy in like every element of his life, his personal life, his business life, his political life, they are trying to do what Brazil did, the only way that's available. And I think the fact that the system is standing up for itself and trying to give the American people the information that they should have and they should listen to so that they can make an informed decision when they go vote in these primaries and make the right choice. I think that maybe there is enough self-respect. Maybe there is an iota of self-respect in this country. And it's just unfortunate that we're going to have to live through this.
I will point out that the main reason that we are going to have to go through this ordeal, which again could have been prevented by the Republicans, is any criminal is afforded the right of due process here. That's and I feel strongly about due process. As someone who has been arrested before, due process is very, very important. And even a shitbag like Donald Trump deserves his due process. I don't like it sometimes, but he does deserve his due process. But I'll also say that due process is what gets us to an actual real verdict. It's not, God bless the Brazilian court for having the leeway to solve their problem with a snap of the fingers so quickly. But, as you've mentioned, Bolsonaro is not going to jail. He's a free man and he is free to run again in a couple of years. By going through, as painful as it is, going through due process to nail down Trump, there is an actual chance that the man might actually go to jail and pay for his crimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
There is hope and there is hope and self-respect there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it that way, it might seem like it's better to be Trump than Bolsonaro. I mean, after all, Trump is allowed to run for president and Bolsonaro isn't. But on the other hand, no one's trying to put Bolsonaro in jail, and at the end of the day, that's exactly where Donald Trump might wind up.
And on that happy note, that's the Progress Podcast for this week with Marty Longman and me, Brendan Skwire. Our intro music was provided by the greatest honky-tonk rock and roll band in Nashville, Tennessee, the Royal Hounds. Go check them out if they come to a town near you.
Definitely.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. If you like what you heard, subscribe online. You can follow us on the podcast platform of your choice and tell all your friends. But if you didn't like what you heard, don't tell anyone. We'll see you next time, folks.
All right. Over and out.
See you next time, my man. Bye-bye now.
Bye, Brendan.